The classical guitarist from Dorchester is turning once again to the musical traditions of Spain. He'll be performing February 7th with a cellist and flamenco dance ensemble. To tell us about the performance by Con Fuego is Aaron Larget-Caplan. Thank you very much for being with us, Aaron.
Thank you for having me back.
Aaron, we say Spanish music, we say Spanish guitar music. Everybody knows that, but because we're Americans, we say it's Spanish. But what about the real background of this music? Where exactly does this come from?
Well, flamenco itself is a mixture of multiple cultures. I mean, specifically Andalusia, southern Spain, but that area was known for the Moors, North Africa. It had Jews, it had Christians, and all of these traditions. And Roma, yeah, and the Gypsies, of course. And so all of these traditions mixed together. And over years and years, the folk music became very, very stylized and also very unique to that culture. And so you can see one type of dance in Jerez de la Frontera, and you go somewhere like Granada, and they have a completely different take on the same rhythms and dances.
Well, you recently went to the heart of Andalusia in Granada. What did that do for you as far as making you want to revisit this music?
Granada is beautiful. I think walking around the Alhambra, seeing where the Falla was, seeing where Lorca writes about and lived, connected it to me in a way that I hadn't experienced before. To play this music is you're really connecting to a culture and a history. And they say in flamenco that even happy music is sad. And you get that feeling, no matter how beautiful it is in Granada, there's this tier of kind of nostalgia that lives there.
One thing that Federico Garcia Lorca says, you got to play with duende, and he says it means that it doesn't just come out of your throat, it's something that rises up inside you from the very soles of your feet. Does that happen to you when you're playing this music?
Well, I think as a performer, we all have those moments of electricity when we know the audience is with us, where the two of us or three of us, individuals or group, are connected in such a way that there's a bond. And I know every performer has felt that at least once. In North Indian classical music, they call it rasa, where the audience and the performer, they're so connected, they can reach a level of bliss and nirvana. And in flamenco, it's very similar because you have the audience who's with you, who's understanding the ole, there's a support in it. But it also means that one has to be open for the moment, and it has to be completely aware of what's happening in front of us and without getting in the way of it.
Of course, you want us to hear this music in a fresh way. One of the things in the program is probably familiar to a lot of people who might not even realize it, Asturias by Isaac Albeniz. And you've got this performance lined up with a dancer, and you've got a cellist involved as well. How is that different?
Well, originally the work is for piano. Many people will know the theme from The Doors and Robbie Krieger, who wrote Spanish Caravan. That's how I first heard it. But then I heard it on classical guitar. It's a very often transcribed piece, meaning piano to guitar. I love the work, it's a lot of fun to perform, but I wanted to do something different, so I made a trio version. So Conja comes out, I don't want to give it too much away, but she's in the first part, and it's the guitar. And then the middle section, which has this kind of call to prayer, the cello just bursts out, and it's just this gorgeous cry. And then as the piece recaps, the cello and I are both playing this melody and together, while Conja is doing what we call palmas, the clapping of the hands, keeping the rhythm. But that's too easy. She's dressing the piece and pushing it in such a way it makes it so exciting and unique to play. So we add these flamenco elements to classical music. Albeniz, Rodrigo, Enrique Granados, Manuel de Falla, these pieces that are just masterpieces and beautiful alone, I think are enhanced and reach a whole new level when we add in the dance and flamenco song.
Well, the flamenco part, at least as far as the dance, is very rhythmically driven, very regular sometimes. But what about the vocal part, the canteondo? Different story, isn't it?
Yes. Well, and La Conja is a world-class choreographer and dancer, but she's also a singer. Very unusual to have a dancer who can sing with such I mean, beyond professionalism, but such depth. And Canto Hundo is a tradition of deep song. Lorca writes about it, De Falla writes about it, and there's an essence and a freedom that comes with it. So she has a few pieces in the program where she, in essence, goes off on her own, and she will become her own rhythm section while singing. And so, though the music is groove-based at times, there's also this freedom. And so she's moving in between the pitches. So if you look at a piano and you imagine pitches in between the keys, that's very typical of traditional music.
There's one thing that intrigues me about this music. You know, there was a time when all these different kinds of populations in Spain intermingled quite a lot, especially in cultures. But there was also a period when certain cultures were suppressed. And was that what happened to flamenco too, maybe?
Depending how far you go back, but yes. I mean, I like to say that that flamenco and this tradition is very much influenced, like the blues are in the United States. It's a repressed, music from a repressed group. When the Jews were evicted from Spain, kicked out, many of them went into the hills and hid and lived amongst the gypsies. And so there's some of the earliest flamenco, the oldest styles, have this Jewish sound in there. And so each group, over the generations, adds their elements to it. And now flamenco has influence of jazz, of pop music, Indian music. It is truly an art form, and an art form doesn't stand still. It's constantly taking in and reflecting the people and the performers.
Of course, one other thing about repression in Spain, even some of the people that are being performed or reflected in performances, they experienced that. De Falla went into exile, I believe,
yes.
And of course Garcia Lorca was assassinated.
Yeah. Well, the 20th century was not necessarily nice in Spain to be homosexual, to be against the current government there, or the government at the time. And so yes, De Falla, many composers in Spain went to Paris. And so composers like Rodrigo, De Falla, Torraba, Turina, they went to Paris not just because it was a cultural hub, but it wasn't safe necessarily in Spain. And so a lot of the music that we'll play will have a French influence as well. And so there's this kind of characteristic of Spanish music that the composers use, but then they add elements of Western classical music, you know, different harmonies, an idea of a progression moving through different keys, which wasn't found in flamenco music as much. Now, it's changed because flamenco now reflects parts of the classical music as well.
We should mention you've got the performance on February 7th, so we should tell a little bit more about the place and how people can get tickets. Maybe.
Yes, the concert's at the Regent Theater, right in Arlington Center. Parking is available. You can go to the Regent Theater on their website or go to my website, alcguitar.com. And tickets are available. I think there's wine and drink available as well, and group tickets. And it starts at 8 o'clock on Friday the 7th. The concert will be repeated in Northampton on Saturday and in Providence on Sunday. So,
thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Aaron Larget-Caplan will have more news in just a moment.